We're excited to get started playing. I mean, it seems like we've gone against each other so much. You go back to spring ball, fall camp, all the scrimmages, all the practices, and we're excited for this opportunity. And the thing I've just really noticed from our team is the gradual, steady improvement from spring ball, through fall camp. You really see guys grasping the offense, defense, special teams. You see them getting better every day. I love the attitude of the team right now. Love the work ethic. Again, I'm not sure how exactly we'll match up against Montana State. They're an outstanding football team, but I know we are a better football team now than we were back in January, in March, even at the end of July when we first started fall camp. We are improved, and I'm excited for us to have an opportunity to get on the field, see exactly where we are, see how we match up, and see where we still need to improve.
All right, that will open up questions for Coach.
Coach, tell us, what your plan of attack is going into this first game at the quarterback position.
Boy, we've still got three quarterbacks who are getting reps with the first offense. Deacon Hill, Luke McPhail, and Reggie Graff. We're not ready to name a starter at this point, but I think all three guys have done well. All three guys are capable of running the offense. We really want to see how this week goes and see where there's separation. But I mean, I would not be shocked if you ended up seeing all three guys on Saturday. I mean, the competition really has been that close.
What's the feedback from Coach Stevens as far as how tight it really is? I mean, if you're going to play all three, are you looking for who has the most moxie against the Bobcats, and ultimately week 2 you could be ready to name a starter?
I really think that as we get to that point, further into the season, I would love to solidify that position more where we have a definite guy. He knows he's the guy. But each of those guys are a little bit different. Each of them have different strengths. And if we can find a way to incorporate those things as we go through the year, and play to those strengths, we will do that. But, we hope with, each of those guys getting some opportunities that, a starter will emerge as the season goes on.
Coach, you had the unique opportunity to have your first game against somebody who's already played. So you're able to scout a little bit of film of this year's team from Montana State. How prepared do you feel like your team is going into this week 1 matchup against a team that played in week 0?
I think we're prepared. I mean, we've worked hard. We've had physical practices. We've really been competitive. I think we're prepared, but there's always, that opening game jitters and just, getting things ironed out with your first game. It is nice to see, Montana State on film, but I'll tell you what, they are very similar to last year, doing a lot of very similar things. They're a very talented football team. So we know it'll be a tough matchup. In the coaching profession, you always hear coaches say the most improvement you see during the season is usually between week 1 and week 2. So that advantage might go to Montana State, but we are glad that we at least have a game of film from them to compare to last season. And we're excited about the matchup.
Coach, what are you most comfortable with going into game 1?
I think there are I really across the board at most positions. I think from where we started in March with spring ball to where we are now, I think we've developed a lot more depth at most positions across the board. And, especially things like DB, wide receiver, defensive line, running back. I think we've really helped our depth there. And I think that's going to help us in a game like this. Very talented football team with a lot of good football players, very physical team. We know that they're going to, try to, pound that football, wear us down on both sides of the ball. So that depth is going to come into play. We're going to need to roll guys through, keep guys fresh. And so I feel good about that depth and our ability to play, multiple guys at many positions.
Coach, I'm just curious, as far as your personnel on offense goes, in fall camp, you guys are pretty versatile, whether you go with 1, 2, even 3 tight ends. Can you give us a glimpse of what the personnel might look like on offense without giving any secrets away for Montana State on Saturday?
I really think that we can be multiple and have a lot of variety in our personnel groups. And boy, if you've seen the practice in fall camp, we've shown that multiplicity of personnel groups where we've put multiple running backs on the field at the same time with the talent we have in that group. You mentioned the tight ends, and I think we got 3-4 guys there. Again, like the quarterbacks, they have different strengths, but we've been able to put multiple tight ends on the field. With our depth that we have at receiver now compared to where we were in the spring, I mean, we've had some, 4 wide receiver looks in fall camp. So I think we can be very multiple in our personnel groups, and I think that will help us.
Coach, with the new schemes on both sides of the ball, offense and defensive coordinator, have your guys stopped thinking so much and just let their athletic talent take over yet?
I think we're getting much closer there. Where, I mean, you saw in early spring, even in fall camp, I think sometimes we're overthinking things a little bit too much. We're over analyzing, and there's just a lot of questions of, oh, coach, how does this exactly fit? What do I do here? What if I get this? I think we've had so many reps now. We tried to simplify things on both sides of the ball and really in all phases, including special teams, that we're getting much closer to being able to just play fast, not overthink things. We have such a good understanding of what we're doing that we can just react to what we're seeing and play fast. I mean, you never know that fully until you get to the first game and you're going against different schemes on offense, defense, special teams. But I think we've definitely improved in that area, and I think we're ready for the season to start and see where we're at.
And coach, on those same lines of overthinking, you've been in this gig a long time, high profile coordinator positions, but this is your first time as a boss, and you're what's going through your mind at a personal level as you prepare for your head coaching debut in college football?
It's definitely different because I've just been so used to just being so zeroed in on just the scheme and the matchup there, our defense against the opponent's offense, and situational things that we need to be prepared for, matchups. Now it's looking at the whole thing and all the little details of game day and making sure that things go smooth. So it's definitely different. There's a lot more to think about, a lot more to be prepared for.
Is there someone that you've patterned your style head coaching wise after that you want to emulate? Like in simple things like pregame speeches, the way you bring your team out and that sort of thing.
I really think, because I've heard so many times from so many of the coaches I've worked with or that I've known, hey, you've got to be yourself. I mean, you've got to have your own personality. The coaches who have had the most success are the guys who they are themselves. They don't try to be someone else. But what I've done is I've been so blessed to be around so many great coaches that I have really picked up a lot of things. I've tried to incorporate a lot of those things, like the things I've learned from Jim Harbaugh, the things I've learned from David Shaw, Vic Fangio, Derek Mason. It's just, I've got to be myself, but I will be incorporating a lot of those things that I've learned from those guys and other great coaches that I've been around over the years.
Coach Devin Dixon again. Hey, just curious, how do you go about in the final couple practices before Saturday night, taking away the big plays? They had that 93-yard run that really sparked the comeback. They had a 37-yard pass from Tommy Malott, who was basically a running quarterback last year and looks like a lot more dynamic passing this year. Their other running back had a 37-yarder. They had 3 plays over 35 yards. How do you limit the big plays?
That's what we've talked a lot about defensively. Just we've got to make sure we're correct in all of our fits. Everybody doing their job on defense, everybody doing their 111th, making sure that we're giving great effort, that we got guys flying to the football. So if there is a misfit or a missed tackle, we've got someone there. But they're very explosive. You mentioned the running backs, and then 32 Davis didn't even play last week, and he's not on the depth chart, so I don't know that he's playing this week. But boy, those other two got 22 and 23. Humphrey. Those guys are explosive guys. And you look at the wide receivers. I just think that's a great group as well. So they've got some explosive playmakers. So that's going to be a real key for us. We need to eliminate those big plays, make them, drive the football, make them drive the length of the field. Don't let them get those big explosive plays. So that certainly is a point of emphasis. And we got to do a great job there to have a chance.
And
Along
coach,
those
being
same-
a defensive guy that you are, the defense last couple of years giving up a lot of yards on the ground, and you're going up against Montana State, top rushing team in the FCS. Have you harped on that? And is that the one thing that you needed to solve and figure out on the defensive side if you want to be a successful team this year?
Oh, I really think so. And this week it starts out with, yeah, that is the number one priority. We've got to find a way to stop the run. We've got to slow down their running game. And I think as the season goes on, that's always been key for me, is to have success as a defense. You got to stop the run. It is going to be a big challenge because Montana State is very efficient at running the football. I mean, they are big and physical up front. They've got some good experience up front. Like I touched on already, very talented running backs. So that's going to be very interesting for us to see how we match up, because they definitely have a size advantage over us up front. So we're going to have to be multiple. We're going to have to move guys. We're going to have to bring some run pressures, things like that. But we're going to have to find some answers to slow down their run game to have a chance in this game for sure. That's a big priority for us.
Coach, just curious, did you give Bronco Mendenhall a call this week at all and asked him his thoughts on the Bobcats after they played him last Saturday?
I haven't. I know that we've got some coaches on our staff who have talked to some coaches at New Mexico that they know, and I mean that was just a great performance by Montana State to be able to go into Albuquerque and get that win. That was impressive.
Coach, tell me about the chemistry of this team at this point, and of course, early on in the season, and the chemistry between you and them as you're coming in as a new head coach.
Again, that's from the time I took over, that was a priority. Just having a chance to sit down with all the players when I first got the job, that's something that so many of them asked for, that, they wanted to have a closer team, a tighter team, a team that just cared more about each other, that, they felt like, that they played together. So we've tried to work really hard to make that an emphasis as well. We made it a priority for guys to get to know each other, spend time with each other. I think it's hard to play together as a team, until you know each other, you care about each other, you respect each other, you love each other, and you want the very best for each other. So we've tried to make that a priority. And I know in the game of football, doing this as long as I have, that it's not always the best teams that win, the most talented teams, the biggest, most physical teams. It really is. It's the team that plays the best together. And those are the best teams, the teams that have that chemistry, that have that tightness, that have that love for each other. And, I'm not sure exactly where we're at, but I know we're better than we were in January. But that's, still, something we're trying to build, because I know ultimately for us to take this program where we want it to be, you've got to have that brotherhood and that closeness and that chemistry, as a team.
Okay, are there any more questions?
Final question for me, Coach, is how does special teams look? Kicker, punter, return men? I mean, first game of the season, some question marks there. Are you really confident with the guys you got in some of those positions?
There are still questions there at game, when it comes to game day, because it's new for some of those guys. I'll mention some things in the specialist world. Start with the returners. I mean, I think you're mainly going to see Shamar Garrett there and Bryce Parker. Those are two very electric, very fast guys. So we're excited for them to get the ball in their hands and see what they can do, because I know they are explosive. They can make plays. I'm excited about that. Andy Day is very experienced as a punter. I've got a lot of trust in him. I mean, he just needs to continue to be consistent, but I think he's got a great upside as a punter. Ryan Keene was, first team preseason all conference. So, I mean, you want to start the season with a long snapper that you can rely on. So whether it's the snaps on field goals, PATs, punts, I think we've got a really reliable guy that will do a great job. Ilya Uvedov has done a great job as a kicker, very strong leg. I mean, could put the ball consistently in the end zone. And we're just looking for more accuracy from him as a field goal kicker. He definitely has the ability. He has a strong leg. I've seen so much improvement in him from the spring. And I mean, we expect, great things from Ilya as well.
Coach, one more thing. Your offense and defensive coordinators, they're going to be up in the booth or down on the field?
They will both be up in the box.
Okay. And how does that go when do you make the final call? You leaving that up to Stevens? How does that work? Do you tell them, hey, run the ball more? How does that connection work?
Yeah, we'll talk as the game goes on, things, but really, I've told Coach Stevens, I've told Coach Moynihan that, hey, I want them to take charge. It is their offense, their defense. Told Coach Bordelon the same thing with special teams. Hey, that's their deal, and they put a lot of time into it. They're really good coaches. They're very well prepared. But sure, just like I kind of do during the week, at game time as well. I might have some suggestions or input, things like that, and they're all great to work with, and we're looking forward to getting this season started.